The answers to take your business to the next level are actually a lot simpler than you might actually believe. On today's episode, we have dived into Rick's business of Sunbros, and we've created 3 simple steps for him to take his business to the next level.
Welcome to the Premium Mindset, the weekly podcast where homegrown entrepreneurs and business owners, Ritchey and Cameron Bawden, share the good, the bad, and the ugly of modern entrepreneurship and reveal what really happens behind the scenes of their personal and professional lives. As owners of 2 of America's fastest growing and most disruptive companies, Coconut Cleaning and Green Mango Pest Control. Stay tuned for real stories, struggles, insight, and advice from real entrepreneurs in real time.
One of the things that I've enjoyed the most about the 1% Club is we're bringing a community of people together that are in areas of, expertise in their business where they are right now, but also where they're wanting to go. And so Rick, for example, is doing $300,000, almost $400,000 a year. There's guys in there that are doing 700, a million, 1.5, and he's able to ask those guys questions that are allowing him to get there that much faster. And so look, if you're listening to this episode and you're not a 1% Club member, scan the QR code. We want you to become a member. Come check it out, what it's like. We have a website, hypefarm.com. It's going to teach you everything that we're doing, the playbooks, the events, the community. It's something that's special. It's organic. And so we want you to be a part of it.
Let's get everyone to where Rick is at now, and then we're going to talk about where he wants to go. So, Rick, how long you been in business?
Just under 3 years.
Just under 3 years. Mm-hmm. And this year you'll complete revenue around $350,000.
Yep.
Awesome.
Which is double from 2024.
Awesome.
Yep.
And so the first thing that you answered when we asked where you want to take the business is you may not know 10 years, you may not know 5 years, but you said next year you want to get it to $600,000.
Correct.
Cool.
Really quick though, what did you do this year that allowed you to double?
The first thing I did is I got off the truck full time. I was able to actually take a step back into sales, into marketing. The first year I was also part-time in school. I was at Grand Canyon University still playing hockey for them. So after that was done in April, I took the last half of 2024 serious, and then 2025 was like, this is what I'm doing. This is my only option. So let's make something out of it.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Yeah.
Sick. Cool.
Keep going.
Yeah. So we spent the last 90 minutes with you, and I think in business, at every level, there's always going to be a buffet of choices that you can make to get to the next level. And what we've done with the limited information that we have is we've created 3 different topics or areas of focus where you can, leave the podcast and say, here's some very bite-sized things that I could do to start getting my business in alignment with where I want to take it.
The first thing that we did for Rick, and this is hopefully beneficial for everyone that's listening here, is to understand exactly how did you go and make $350,000 last year. And so this takes probably 15 to 20. Luckily, Rick had all of his numbers. If you don't know your numbers, this is going to be a couple-hour exercise, but again, it's worth it. And so what we broke down is to understand to get to 350, what were your total jobs? And you broke down, and I'll just kind of go through them to save some time here.
Yeah.
But it was actually 335,000 that you did, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So 335,000, it broke down to 547 jobs completed in 2025, which it was kind of vague, and we'll talk about this later, but your close rate, a blended close rate, which we're going to get into, of the importance of, there's actually 3 different categories of how to capture that, but your blended contact, close rate, and service rate was 47 to 55%, which meant you had roughly between 990 leads and 1,164. So again, I know I'm going quick for those that are listening, 547 total jobs broken down, which meant around 1,164 to 994 leads, okay? We identified that your job average was $586, which meant you profited around 15%. Mm-hmm. So that's the first breakdown. So when we said, hey, and when you're listening here and you're saying, hey, I want to do $600,000, I want to do, $1 million, whatever it might be, the first thing to understand is, okay, what do we need to do in order to accomplish that $600,000? It's reverse engineering. So what we did, and for time's sake, I'm going to break it down, then we can get a little bit more into it, but he roughly needs to do 1,830 leads to hit a $600,000 revenue with a 586 job average, okay? What that breaks down to be is roughly 8 leads a day if you work 20 days a month, which I just assumed in there. If you're listening here and you work 6 days a week, you know, you can get really granular and decide which days there's, you know, 19 working days or 21 working days with the holidays. And I encourage everyone to do that. For our like little planning session, we didn't get that in depth. So these are just rough numbers. You need to go do those by yourself, right? But so 8 leads a day, and it broke down to just 4 to 5 jobs a day. And that's really exciting because like that's very obtainable in my opinion with what you can do. Okay. When we said, okay, your your lead cost is $34 this year, let's just assume you maintain that lead cost. I think we can focus on things that'll help it get even lower, but let's just assume you do that. And what's cool, and this is where like business is business. The math always equals out. You said, hey, I want to spend between 10 and 14% of my revenue on marketing this year. When we reverse engineered and said, okay, he needs, you know, X amount of leads, 1,830 leads times 34, it came out to around $60,000 in marketing spend this year, which is exactly pretty much 10%. So a couple of areas where we wanted to focus right away, and the advice that we gave you and those that are listening right now, if you don't know these numbers, like literally pause the episode and go figure those out and come back to this. If you do know these numbers, there's a couple areas that I want to break down. The first one is understanding your leads. So we don't know if you're at a 70% contact rate and an 80% close rate. It's looking like you're pretty close to that. But one of the things that we found with at least between pests, alarms, carpet cleaning, and windshields is that if you're above a 70% contact rate, meaning when the lead comes in, 70, if you get 10 people that submit a lead, 7 of those people are answering. The other 3, for whatever reason, like you can never get a hold of them, right? So that's a 70% contact rate. You need to start tracking that. What's the best CRM that we found right now to track our leads?
HubSpot.
HubSpot's still the best. Yeah. What are you using right now?
We use Jobber and Go High Level. So Go High Level is the front end of like getting the lead, and then after we send them the estimate, they go into Jobber, and we use Jobber for the estimate to close.
So just make sure, and here's my thing is like, if it doesn't give you clean data, I would get away from that. If it does, cool, stick with it. We don't advocate. That's just HubSpot's just who we use. But you need to understand what is our contact rate. And again, we think above a 70% is great. The next metric or KPI is contact to close rate. We strongly believe that you should be above at 85% to 90% close rate on those people, okay? So 10 people submit, you're talking to 7. Out of those 7, you're closing 85 to 90% of those. And then, okay, this is the thing that we identified with you, is that you aren't tracking. And so I'm excited to hear the follow-up on this, is that once you close that person, what percentage of those jobs are you completing? And the reason why we talk about this, and a lot of you guys that are maybe listening right now, you're like, oh crap, we're not doing that. Like, more jobs fall off than you think for a number of reasons. Scheduling errors, maybe you're outside, like we identified, which is one thing, like your install rate is 2 weeks. Pest control, our goal is within 24 to 48 hours. Carpet cleaning, same thing. Why can't it be for your industry? And this is where you can, like, you might have just been like, hey, we're cool with 2 weeks because that's what it is in the industry. And I would say, dude, do you want to be different? Do you want to differentiate yourself? This is how you do it. Get out there within 24 to 48 hours. Because one of the things is understanding your product. And we went through this exercise is like, hey, when people finally call you about the spots on the window or pigeon poop all over their driveway or patio, wherever they sit, like, they're frustrated. They want you now. So you have a very hot buyer that'll take action right away. Okay. And like, there's a lot of industries like alarms. That was my biggest challenge with Black Hat Security, is that people wouldn't call until they had a break-in or something, catastrophic happen. And how often does that happen in security? Not that much. Right. And so when it happens, like, we want to get out there right away. So with knowing just those 3 numbers and breaking those apart, you will get closer to your $600,000, revenue goal. But here's what's cool is if we can even lift that by 10% on your numbers that you did this year, you would have made an additional $30,000. Like, and you think about that, like, that's pretty much straight profit besides your COGS when you go out, technician and gas, wear and tear on the vehicles. Because all your office expense, your office manager, your salesman, all that came out. Like, that's just capitalizing more on your leads.
I think while we were discussing this, I liked how you stopped me in my tracks of immediately going to like, well, how many more times can you buy new leads? You're like, what's your conversion efficiency even look like right now, where you reference another company you've worked with where you've been able to double it without even focusing on acquiring new sales. And so I feel like that's such an important focus to say, look, maybe because you said, hey, when I do get out to somebody's house and I close them, I'm at 95%. I believe that's what you said. So that may not be the area that you focus on. It's how many of the leads that you get that you could increase to being contacted so that you could go out to the house. And areas that you can focus on in increasing your contact rate is contact speed and contact type. So you want to focus on our new rule of thumb, and I'm so excited about this AI implementation that we're working on. But our rule of thumb previously during the workday was 5 minutes. And we can look in HubSpot, see when it was landed and see when it was dispositioned and see when they contacted. And we have an auditor who checks that and every day sends a report saying, here's the 97 leads that came in, 7 were contacted between 5 and 25 minutes, but the other 98% were contacted between, 1 and 5 minutes. And so I would immediately, in regard to sales conversion efficiency, focus on getting to them faster, because you have those owner operators out there who literally just sit by that phone waiting for that call to come in.
Being at my stage, being in business for 3 years, auditing is one of the things that I have struggled with. Where would I take, in your guys' perspective, where should I take auditing at the current stage that I'm at?
One of the things that we talked about, and we've done a couple of podcasts on these about how do you audit systems and processes. One of the things that we broke down that is most important for you right now is if you're going to hire an auditor to audit those 3 KPIs. We feel like in your business for 2026, the most important thing is understanding contact rate, close rate, and service percentage. You focus in on those, you're going to win, right? Another component that we didn't talk about is maintaining that job average. You can't, you can go do twice the volume, but if that job average drops down, then you're not going to get anywhere. That's where I would focus, because other than that, you don't have that many systems and processes in place. When you're hiring an auditor, the whole point is that, hey, I'm going to no longer wear this hat. I'm going to step out of this department, and I need to make sure that these people don't drop the ball. So whatever department you've stepped out of, so right now you're no longer a technician. So if I was you, I would go and audit all the things that this technician does, from the moment they clock into the house to when they clock out at the end of the day. What's expected of them? Front door scripts, booties, type of product that they use, the way that they service the home. Do they clean the windows first? Do they brush them off? Where do they park? Do they block the driveway? Do they not? Get as granular as you can for a system for them to follow. And then how do you audit those? You can do it a few different ways. You can have customers do a review. At one point, we made a website where we'd call customers and say, hey, we'll knock off, do you remember what it was, 10 or 15 bucks off your service if you go and fill out this survey? And it was a website. We built this landing page that basically was really easy to access, really easy to fill out. And it had 5 things that the customer would actually rate the technician on without him knowing. So, hey, did they knock at the front door? Were they wearing booties? Did they power spray, the entire fence line? Little things like that told us, hey, they're doing a great job. Okay. And it was what I loved about it is, 1, it was an audit on our technicians, but 2, it was a touch point for customers. And then 3, it reinforced we care and that we're premium because we're having them engage. As
we scale, I might not be able to see things that you guys are able to see since you've been doing it for much longer. At the point that we're at, getting to 600, $1 million, whatever the case is, what blind spots do you guys see that could be a big constraint?
I think that's a good question to segue into, or to reinforce the first area of focus. And the point is that if you hear Cameron say, get an auditor, but you don't have a standard operating procedure for everything you want them to audit, that's where you start, right? So it's what do I have her take a look at? What's your standard for how quickly leads are contacted, how often leads are contacted, and what the script is? Do you have her listening, have him or her listening to the calls? And so that's where you start, because I know that when you started the company, if it was anything like what we did, was like you have these hopes and aspirations, and we have this word premium for us. It's like, what does premium mean? For me, it meant bringing 2 fans to the door with corner guards and putting your booties on before you walk into the house. So the second I was able to get a second technician, I was like, oh crap, I need to put this somewhere. And so we create a little bullet point list, and it's like, this is what you have to do to, live by our standards. And so the second aspect, as far as blind spots go, is that it generally is less to do with like, hey, what could I run into, and more to do with how you can maintain the operating procedure to have a great company in the first place, because that's where most companies fall, is they don't have the most important things upheld in the first place. And so I would say, if you're that owner operator that when you go to a quote or a bid, you close it, why? Why do you close it? What kind of rapport do you build? How do you build it? Do you take them outside? So write those things down. And then if you're the guy that, hey, when I go to a job, like you mentioned earlier, like I booked it for 6 hours and then they took, 8 hours, right? Why? Why is it? So why is it that you could do it in 6? Or maybe what are some things that you could know moving forward with all future bids where you can bake an extra $100 in there for any type of inconvenience they might run into as they get up there and as they start seeing things from a different angle. So I would say the most important things is, imagine if you were the person doing all the things and you see a small slip in what either your brother, or even if your brother is the better performer in doing the job, write down the most premium ways to get the job serviced, and then that is the standard, and then that is what you're able to reinforce. And I think to Cameron's point that he didn't illustrate, but he always illustrated to me, is that right now you're going to be the auditor, right? So it's like you take the leads, right? You call the leads, and then you go out to the bids.
Yep.
Okay, you're the auditor right there. And so you have to have those standards down. And then when you say, okay, I'm going to pass the torch on. So what happens to leads when you go out to service a job?
Like if I'm not on the phones and I'm out doing something, those leads sometimes take multiple hours for us to get to, because I'm not there to answer the phone or call them right away. So that's another constraint, is trying to fill too many cups at once time to time. And that's what brought me to that first topic of like, where should I really try to be focused and where else to diverse. So
blind spots are often just going to be you not having a system that supports your standards. And once you create a system that supports your standards to ensure they're upheld at every level of growth, you'll find that the blind spots generally come from reaching new altitudes of success, and less to do with like self-created problems that all of us entrepreneurs are capable of doing at very high scale, is making our own problems, right? So find that standard that you want everything enforced to, write it down, make sure everyone sees it. Cameron was really good at Green Mango he had a banner that said like, there's 252 working days in a year. Like, why is that important? Because we need to hit this revenue, we need to hit these goals. And he would have all these other banners that had all the other goals. And so it's what's important to you, how do you want the thing delivered, and then write that thing down so that as you go do the next thing, right, as you get off the truck entirely, that you know that the service isn't going to skip a beat because you're not doing the service anymore. That's where I would start with blind spots, is make sure that the standards you want upheld at every level, as if you were doing it, are duplicatable by whoever else is going to do it. That'll mitigate a lot of things that could happen. So the 3 things that we've gone over with Rick here are extremely applicable for where he's at. However, they're applicable to anyone. So the most important thing is to nail down your conversion efficiency, and then to make sure that you're having that conversion efficiency audited and then reported. So make sure that it's reported at a rate that allows you to make real-time feedback, and to make sure that your standards are being enforced. And lastly, have all the standards written down so that as you have the blind spots, that those blind spots aren't necessarily self-inflicted, but they're going to come from achieving new heights of success.
One of the things that I love about the Coconut model, and why, if you're listening to this, you should franchise with Coconut. 1, if you're frustrated with your business right now, but 2, if you're wanting to start one, is because we give you the framework that we're talking about with Rick right now. Imagine if you had this 3 years ago, what would have happened?
I would be at my goal already, that's for sure.
Yeah, and so that's the point of the franchise. Like if you're sitting there and you're like, man, I need to do something faster and better. We want to talk to you. We want to teach you all the things that we've put into place to maximize the success rate that you have and to expedite it that much faster. In next week's episode, we're going to talk about how we can help Rick identify his ad spend, his brand direction, and also how to continue on with his culture and make sure that the guys are happy and wanting to continue to show up like he wants them to for the customers. If you like this episode, make sure you turn on notifications, subscribe to it,